Hello. Welcome to my first ever edition of my observations. For my first video, I had a question that came in from a girl I went to high school with who's very involved in the pharmaceutical industry, Lisa Ruby Radler. And her question basically was to get my thoughts on cancer and whether my process with cancer was a battle or if I considered it a fight or living with cancer, partnering with cancer, or accepting cancer. And really, it's all of those for me personally. I do have to say that there's no cookie cutter approach to cancer, simply because everybody gets diagnosed at certain points in their process. Obviously, for those who go in and aren't feeling well and are basically maybe go into the operating room immediately, you always hear about how they get opened up and the cancer was all over, they get closed up. Many times they go right into hospice. And unfortunately, they pass away within a few weeks, sometimes a few days. For them, I guess, you're automatically into acceptance. For me personally, my cancer was found relatively early for pancreatic cancer. Fortunately, not early enough, but relatively early. So last September, when I heard the news, when I got the results back from a biopsy that I had pancreatic cancer, my first thought was, we're going to battle this, we're going to fix this. Being a man, of course, we think we can fix everything. Me personally, I never really felt I could fix anything because I wasn't that good at certain things, cars and carpentry and plumbing and such, but I knew I could find somebody that could fix it. So my first meeting with doctors and such, we had to find out how we're going to proceed with this. And of course, we would have loved to have done surgery and had the Whipple procedure done, which is a big time procedure, but it's basically the procedure that's done for pancreatic cancer. Unfortunately, where my mass was, we needed to reevaluate things because it was inoperable, because my mass actually surrounds some very important veins, portal vein, mesenteric vein, and they couldn't just go in there and be sort of cutting around that area. I wouldn't have survived. So, we came up with a plan to do chemo, and we went from there. Unfortunately, over the course of the last 9 months, and I can't get into all the details or this video would be 2 hours long, but over the course of 9-10 months, we went through a lot of CAT scans. And each CAT scan, while it showed my cancer wasn't spreading, it also wasn't bringing the cancer down to a level where we could get it operated on. The mass was still too big. So, but we continued the battle. I mean, through chemo, through radiation, the battle, the fight, whatever you want to call it, it was there. That's what we were doing. We were all about beating this cancer. And it really wasn't until March of this year that my wife and I went down to Jefferson Hospital in Philadelphia and saw this renowned surgeon who we were going to go there. We went there for a second opinion, who my oncologist, Dr. Nair, had recommended. And basically, when we found out that he wanted to see us, we were very hopeful that he felt he might be able to do something. And we went down there, and it was a very great learning experience. He sat down with us and showed me things. Showed me my gallbladder, which was the size of my liver, and my pancreas was 4 times bigger than what it should be, and he explained things as to why I'm having the pain I have because of all the pressure in my stomach and so forth. So the bottom line was, at the end of the day, he said that he wouldn't touch me for surgery. which at that point, I think we became the living with cancer stage, because we still had the thought that our plan was, if we come back from there, we were going to do another regimen of chemo, a different type of chemo, and that would prolong my life, as long as we could, and it would keep the cancer maybe from spreading more. So that was right before I took my Florida trip to see my son play baseball. So that was an awesome experience, being able to do that. That was one of our goals, was to get down there. I came back and I immediately went in to start chemo the following Monday. But my numbers were way off. I had to get rehydrated. I had to get, I think my potassium was low. Everything was off. So I had to get that done. And then I got my first new chemo, which I had for a while. So we're in the phase where we're going to live with cancer. And I ended up getting back in the hospital. One of like 9 trips I took to the hospital over the last 9 months or something like that. And my white blood cell count was so low from the chemo, and I had to get shots to build that back up. So bottom line with that was horrendous. I remember the one day I was in so much pain, and laying on bags of ice, and my brother and my son were there visiting in the hospital, and I remember looking over at them, and like I couldn't really talk, and I thought I was on my deathbed, and quite honestly, my brother and my son, I think, felt the same way. But we pulled through. Got my white blood cell count up, and we were still we're gonna, try to do the chemo again in a couple weeks, get my body built back up and go back in. In the meantime, I started to fill up with fluid, because my body was had a lot of blockages from my mass and stuff. So like my blood flow and I guess other things that are flowing through your body start blocking up and finding new ways to flow, and sometimes there's leaks. So I had to deal with that for a few weeks, and it finally got to a point where I needed it like constantly to get tapped. So I went in and got surgery to put a drain basically in my stomach. And at that point, we sat down with our oncologist and we said, what are the real benefits of continuing with chemo? And it was at a point where we said, well, we might get 3 to 6 extra months of life out of this, but if I'm going to have to come in the hospital all the time to get shots, to get my white blood count cell up, is it really worth it? So we really had to look at the benefit of additional treatment versus just quality of life. And over time, we gave it some thought, certainly prayed about it, and we discussed it with, a lot of people in the medical field, discussed it with my family. And the one Friday night, my wife and son actually were at a baseball game for his old high school team. They were giving me a presentation, and I was in the hospital, so obviously I couldn't be there. So they went and accepted it on my behalf. And my oncologist came in, just dressed in normal clothes. He was there to visit me, which was very special. And we talked, and we really discussed my situation, and he basically talked to me almost as a friend, and he said, we hit this hard from the beginning. We battled. He said, then we got to the point where, we were going to, live with it. He said, now you might have to he said, I think now you're in the willing, you're able, and he said, I think it's in your best interest to accept the fact that, let it play out. So at that point, we got into the, I sort of call it the acceptance and surrender stage, although, the surrender isn't what you think, and I'm going to talk about that in our next video. But so overall, to answer your question, Lisa, I think it was all those things. It was a battle, and we battled hard. And then we got to a point where, we're going to try and live with this. And then finally we got to a point where we're accepting it. We're going to do the best we can with it. I don't know how long we got, but make the best of it every day. I really enjoyed doing this video. It felt good. It was therapeutic, and hopefully everybody that got a chance to watch it gets something out of it. I'm trying to make it the next one's a couple shorter. You can't really answer that question without going into some detail, but hopefully I answered it well, and have a good day.